Hey everybody, Josiah Neuman here with Neuman K-9 Academy. Today we're going to be talking about the top 5 reasons to not use an electronic collar. Before we get started, I also would like to explain though that I'm a balanced trainer. That means that I do use positive reinforcement. I also have a very specific system for training dogs, commands, complex behaviors, and establishing generalized behaviors before use of a corrective collar like an electronic collar. But in this video we're going to be talking about the top 5 reasons or times when we're not going to be using one. So number 1 on my list is if you have an untrained dog. More often than not, inexperienced trainers or even owners will go to the store, purchase an electronic collar, and begin using it. And when you do that and the dog does not have a clear understanding of the commands, this is when there's stress involved because it's basically negative reinforcement, the dog trying to avoid negative stimulus. In my opinion, this is not the way to train a dog. I want to make sure that the dog has a clear expectation of behavior, and when I give a command that they're going to not only know how to respond to it, but that they're going to be highly motivated to want to respond to it. And this comes through motivational training techniques and use of positive reinforcement. We go through several weeks and several hundred repetitions during boot camp in order to train a dog that commands before the electronic collar is going to be used, or we're going to be holding them accountable for responding to commands. Number 2 on the list is if you have not properly conditioned your dog to wearing the electronic collar. One of the things that I like to do with my own dogs, as well as dogs that come to my academy for training, is I want them to have a very positive association with the electronic collar. And we do this by putting the electronic collar at times when they're going to be going out for play groups or going on a nature hike, when they're going to be doing something very enjoyable. So when the dog sees the electronic collar, they're going to associate it with doing something that they really enjoy or something positive. The second thing is conditioning them to wearing the collar consistently throughout the day, throughout the week. And we like to do that so that dogs do not become collar smart. A collar smart dog is a dog that only responds to commands when they're wearing the electronic collar. And so the 2 things that I like to do, number 1, positive association with the electronic collar by putting it on before an enjoyable activity. Number 2, having them wear the collar consistently throughout the day. Number 3 on my list of times when I do not use an electronic collar is when I'm addressing behaviors like aggression or dogs fighting. Experienced trainers who have had to break up fights know once the fight begins, an electronic collar is only going to add fuel to the fire. When a dog gets into an aggressive state of mind, the electronic collar can also cause the dog to redirect that aggression either towards a human or towards another dog. We call this friendly fire. When a fight breaks out, it's too late for the electronic collar to address the behavior or to stop the fight. Like I mentioned earlier, it's only going to add fuel to the fire. So once a fight begins, we're going to have to go hands-on and break up the fight. We're not going to be able to use the electronic collar to stop it. So how do we address fighting? How do we address aggression? The short answer, you have to manage the precursors. You have to look at what types of things are causing the dog to become aggressive or get into the fight. Those are going to be the precursors, and then managing them. Managing them can become easy if a dog has very good obedience training, but then also if you look at what types of things are triggering these responses and then utilizing the obedience training to prevent them altogether. Number 4 on the list for when to not use an electronic collar is when we're dealing with fear or phobias. A couple of examples that I'd give you would be, let's say a dog is afraid of a particular surface, going up or down stairs. If a person or a trainer is using the electronic collar to force the dog to go up or down the stairs, if that's something that they're afraid of, it can actually perpetuate the dog to become more fearful because they may have a negative association with the stairs or with whatever the surface is. Another example I give you is if a dog is afraid of men or afraid of women, using the electronic collar and creating a negative association is only going to create a higher fear response. When we're dealing with fears and phobias, I like to use either counter conditioning or systematic desensitization. And both examples can be articulated rather well in the book Feisty Fido by Dr. Patricia McConnell. And so if you have a dog that's dealing with some fear or phobia, as well as if you're dealing with leash reactive aggression, this book is going to give very specific examples of counter-conditioning and systematic desensitization, and it gives a good timeline for you to follow to track your progress and the results. Number 5 on the list is when we're dealing with behavior that's happening during times when a dog is not supervised. A couple of examples might be separation anxiety, if a dog is breaking out of a crate, if they're barking out of a window, things like that. The electronic collar is going to require human supervision of the behavior along with proper timing of the correction. And if a dog is having issues that the owner wants to address when they're not going to be home or supervising their dog, the electronic collar is not going to be effective. So now that we got those top 5 reasons out of the way, a couple of additional things I want to share with you guys. The electronic collar is a management tool for managing dog behavior, as well as being able to follow through with obedience commands after they've been trained and established. If an electronic collar is used the right way, it can be a very effective tool in creating good behavior. It can also save your dog's life. Proper responses to commands for things like come when called. So it's going to give your dog the freedom to be able to go more places, do more things, and it's going to give them off-leash privileges. So I hope you found this video to be helpful. If you have any comments you'd like to share below, please feel welcome. As always, like, subscribe, and let us know what you think.